Right. Now, we all know that every time you lay down, you have a left extreme for a wind and a right extreme for a wind, right? Okay. Every time you have what it's worth at its most and what it's worth at its least. Everybody agrees with that?
Okay. Concur.
Okay. We all know that because those are the extremes of the condition, it doesn't spend the majority of its time there. Okay. So what has to happen is you have to be able to analyze quickly where it spends the majority of the time in that condition. So if we say our left extreme, it's worth left 3 minutes, and then our right extreme, it's worth left 1 minute, it's easy to determine that the center of that condition is left 2 minutes. That's not hard, okay? But what are the swings? We know it's going to swing up to a minute left more or drop off a minute less. So that tells me if I put left 2 minutes on the gun right here,
keep it on the left side.
If I put left 2 minutes on the gun and I don't shoot when it's in the extremes, which are easy to identify, right? You're like, oh wow, it's blowing hard. You don't, or it's not blowing at all, right? So if you put left 2 minutes on it and don't touch the sight and only shoot in a window that isn't the extremes, you can only be a minute of wind off, right? Now, to show the benefit of that, we know that the center of the condition is left 2 minutes, but you see it building and you want to chase it up. So you put left 3 minutes on, and all of a sudden it drops down to 1 minute. Now you've got 4 minutes the wrong way on the gun. And where's that going to be? That's not going to help you keep it close to center, right?
And why wouldn't you have 2 minutes on?
The rhubarb. What's that?
How did you get 4 out of that? Or why?
Because you chased it all the way up to 3.
It reverses.
You chased it all the way up to 3.
Okay.
And now it's only worth 1. So you're 2 minutes heavy as compared to 1.
Right.
You see?
Yeah.
So you're a whole minute farther.
Sorry.
Oh, okay. 3 and 1. I got numbers in front of me.
Well, no. What you're doing here is if you have a complete reversal for a minute.
No, we still have left wind on the gun here. Now we can do the same thing, and it's called this left 2 minutes and right 2 minutes. Then obviously your center would then be 0, right?
Yep.
But the same thing. If you shoot it with 0 wind on it and only shoot it when it's not in the extremes, you're going to be half as far out as everybody else. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. The key, what you said, was be able to rapidly identify. That's where I fall down a lot.
Well, it doesn't. I understand.
Rapidly identify the extremes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not the subtleties.
Right. If you can stay out of the extremes,
or haul an ass.
If you can stay out of the extremes, you should never be more than a minute out. You know. Now,
if the velocity of the wind is less than that big percentage, then you should really not be outside the 10 range.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So now, while I say you must rapidly find the center of the condition, you have the ability. Those of us with quarter-minute sights, those of us with quarter-minute sights can move the center of our condition based on what we find 4, 5, 6 shots into it. That, man, I'm still on the right, but I'm not seeing the changes. So we can finally click it, just smooth, make subtle changes. Those of you that have watched me shoot the 600-yard liners, the slow profile, prone slow fire stage, know that I do not like to touch the windage knob, because it is a proven fact that the person that touches the windage knob the most will shoot the biggest group. The more times
we just shot 2 team matches. How many times did we move the wind? Anybody that was on my team or his term, how many times did you touch the windage knob?
Only touched it twice.
Not very much.
And I ended up when I started on.
Exactly. and there's a reason why you find that median and you just favor a little, an exit 3 and an exit 9. It's because you don't need to touch that dang knob when you're centered up with the condition that you're in.
And that's all a coach is trying to do, is to move you to that window where if you break a shot, how many times did I tell you straight away in a team match the other day? Not very many, right?
Exit 9.
Right. I didn't tell you straight away very many times, did I?
Nope.
And the reason for that is we all have a wobble area, and that wobble area creates what, Dwayne? A cone of fire?
Cone of fire.
All right. So the idea is for you to shoot a cone of fire on the safe side. That's why a coach gives you a favor. He doesn't give you a favor to keep it from being in the 9 ring.
Right.
Coach sees it building, doesn't want to click you, so he wants you to break the shot on the safe side of the condition. So if you turn around and say to me, sorry, that one broke straight instead of an exit 3, I know I can expect the 10 at 9 to come up on the target. Everybody understand? I hope I'm not sounding harsh, but that's that. I also believe that if I tell you to favor it, it makes you look harder at the front sight.
Definitely.
I truly believe that, and that's another reason I like to do it so much. So, everybody understand the theory of keep it close to center?
Yes.
Does everybody understand the practice of it? Now, let's talk about the process, the shot process for each and every one of you. How many people do not use the shot behind method of plotting in your data book? How many people don't know what the shot behind method is? We got one. Does everybody else use it?
Yes.
Okay.
Get with me later on.
The last thing you should look at before squeezing the trigger should be what?
Front side.
Obviously.
Smart ass.
Way to go, sir.
That's why I went to college.
Girl from California.
All right, the last thing you look at prior to mounting the gun should be what?
Through the scope of the Mirage.
The Mirage. Through the scope at the Mirage. You break the shot, what's the first thing you should look at after you come off the gun? Check the scope for the Mirage. The more you do that, the better you will understand the difference. Now, when you look in the scope and check the Mirage, and you know the wind you have on the gun, all right, because you're keeping a good data book. You break the shot, you think about your call, you check the Mirage in the scope again. You say, wow, that picked up a little bit, and I broke it on the left. That's when you hear your butthole slam shut and you go, right. Or, you know, you bounce the call off what you see in the change of conditions. You should be able to tell where that shot's going to be on the target within a couple of inches of where it comes up, before it even comes up. I will tell you that when I break a shot slow prone, I look at the condition, and the condition says, okay, I should be somewhere in a 10 ring, I don't see enough of a change in the wind to cause problems. I can bounce that off my call, and if I am not on call, then either something happened that I missed, or there is a condition that I'm not seeing.
And only then will you click.
Right. So,
Okay, well, that's good information.
now again, this can apply. It doesn't mean that zero is always, no win zero. You just have to find the right extreme and the left extreme of your condition. And
Centermost point of the prevailing condition.
just what the smart guy said.
Well said.
What was that again? Say?
Centermost point of the prevailing condition. So, it's really not very many times will you be in a situation, especially out here where it changes 3 or 4 minutes at a time. Usually the prevailing condition out here is pretty mundane, then your changes will be small, which is what makes this work pretty well. If you find yourself shooting international full bore in Brisbane, Australia, be prepared to make 6, 8, 10 minute changes. Or in Raton, New Mexico, or Phoenix, Arizona, where you can make 4, 5, 6 minute changes at a time.
Smart North Dakota.
That makes it a little more challenging because you're dealing with constant direction changes. You don't get a lot of direction changes here, a lot of severe direction changes, you know what I mean? I have seen it come from the south, blow the storm from south to the north, the storm get out over the lake and then gather up some more water and come back this way. But usually you're evacuating the range when that happens. So, what questions do you have about what I call keeping it close to center?
Makes sense to me.
Ooh, did I dumbify it?
That's Barney-fied. Can you briefly talk about what happens if it picks up or lets off more than it does the other? On what side of the 10 ring or X ring you want to stay on, based on if it's letting off more than it's picking up?
Everybody hear what he said?
Based off the constant.
Everybody hear the question? All right. Question was, what happens if it lets up more than it drops off?
Or if it drops off more,
More than it picks up?
Basically, what is the purpose of keeping your group on the left or right of the X ring?
Okay. So you want me to talk about the safe side?
Yes.
Okay. As it pertains to the extremes, all right, we know that we'll go back to our original example, left 3 minutes and left 1 minute, okay? As it pertains to the safe side, if we know that our left extreme is going to be left 3 minutes and our right extreme is going to be left 1 minute, the safe side would be where you are within the extremes, okay? If you have left 2 minutes on in your center, and you see it bouncing between left 2 minutes and left 1 minute, you know that more than likely the safe side is going to be the right side of the 10 ring, because it's not going to drop down much farther. Okay? You know that because it's cyclical, it's going to come back and probably move towards the left 3 minute area. So if you, when you're in the lower end of your bracket, obviously the safe side, you know, in this particular case, the safe side is the right side of the target. Right? That way when it picks up, you don't get caught with too much wind or not enough wind on the gun. Right.
That makes sense, yes.
Okay.
Talk about, here's another big one. Talk about cycles.
If you have the time or the personnel to back you up, and this is something you can really do in training. What we did the other day, Russ did it more than I did it. Russ paid a lot of attention to his clock, watching the time of the cycles as they came. All right, and the cycles we're talking about is, you know, when they call it gusty wind, it's not the one blast of 12 miles an hour. Okay, it means sometimes the wind will be blowing 2 to 3 miles an hour, and other times it'll be blowing 6 to 7 miles an hour. Okay, and it'll come back down and it'll go back up. So what you can do is time those cycles so that you know when you have the least amount of wind to deal with, how long you have to burn up as many shots as you can. Somebody, I don't remember who told the story, but when Chief Atkins was the head coach of the team, and we moved back to the 6 and the Dogs of War, he told everybody go get some ice cream or something, come back in an hour, because he knew that later on in the day the wind would lay down. That's just from coming up here for 50 years, you know that, right? So there are predictability patterns to what goes on out here. A lot of it comes from familiarity with your environment, but some of it comes from observation, diligent observation, and you know, keeping a clock, watching the pattern. You know, if the predominant condition today was where it was coming from about 1 o'clock, then you know if it was coming from 10 o'clock, it wasn't going to stay there long, right? So don't chase it down there. Let a couple minutes pass, watch your clock, keep a timer, and as you see it start to come around, you're back in your familiar condition, and you can blast away when you have your condition back.
You also should have that internal clock in your head too. And if you start paying attention to it down the road, you'll start to think in your head. You'll be like, all right, I'm breaking a shot, and it's been pretty close to 2 minutes now because I shoot one shot already, and I'm slow shooting. And in a way, you know, you should be thinking to yourself, you know, it's probably going to start building right now. I'm in that bottom side part of that cycle, and it's probably going to start building based off of what I've been watching for the last, during the prep period / while the other guy was shooting and I'm watching and scoring at the same time. What this cycle's doing, alarms should be going off in your head going, yeah, it should be tapering off. And don't get me wrong, it's not a perfect science by any means, but it's another tool in your toolbox to use as an indicator. Something should be going off in your head going, you know, it's probably going to start picking up here shortly.
I like that. Yes, it's great.
Awesome.
I'll give you a personal example. I've had Brandon Green, as you all well know, is one of the guys I worked with a lot when I was at the Marksmanship unit. And we worked a lot of it when we went to the Creedmoor Cup in San Diego. The next day we squatted ourselves and I made Junior a bet. I'm like, all right, here we go. It's going to be you and me. Which side do you want to be on? Because Dennis let us squat ourselves, so we shot next to each other all the way back. And we were tied within 2 X's going to the 600. And Junior finished about 4 minutes before I did, and I had him by a point. And now I'm in a cycle of the wind that I haven't seen nor shot through yet. I got my little handy dandy timer going, and I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting. I have 4 shots to go. When I started to wait. I had about 6 minutes remaining. Waited and I waited and I waited. I'm down to 1.5 minutes with 4 shots to go, and I'm still in a condition I haven't seen yet. But just as he said, I know it's got to be coming back. So I knew the condition that I had and I was comfortable with, and this condition that I hadn't seen, but I knew what it was going to do. So what I did is I split it in half, shot my first shot, hung a 10, made a correction, and shot the next 3 shots in 45 seconds to win the match 5 points.
Wow. Who was on the line the other day when I was coaching and made him hold up? That was you, Dan.
Yep.
Same exact scenario.
So, I apologize. There's a lot of things I take for granted, thinking that we all know. Can't win if you don't play. You can't learn if you don't ask. All right. Try to make myself available, give you tips, recommendations of things that I see. If there's something you don't understand or have a question about, please ask. Because, you know, I'll be perfectly honest with you. Just me talking about it makes me better at doing it myself. You know. And that's why I encourage you guys to talk with each other about it, because the more you talk about it, the better it'll make you. Okay? Make you more aware of what you're doing. So, again, I apologize. I do take a lot of things for granted. You know, I spent 15 years down there doing it every day, practicing it every day. I realize that not everybody has that opportunity. So, if there's anything you ever want to know, my door is open, and I'll only not answer my phone if I'm giving a class. So, or it's 2 o'clock in the morning. Or you're the one that hit my car and won't tell me. You can shut that camera off now.